Hello and welcome back to my inky world. My name is Kieron Seamons and this is where we're going to do some drawing today. We're going to be throwing down some inky mess and see what happens. You ready? Let's do it. Okay, so let's get into some drawing. I'm going to try and keep my loose style as I do with my dip pen, except this time I will be using a brush, a pen, a kind of dip brush, brush pen, blah, 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 whatever they call them these days. So I'm going to get into drawing something and just see where we go. I've been bitten on my arm and it's come up in a big red circle. I feel like it's a spider bite or something dramatic, but it probably isn't being in England. Probably a flea bite or something. Right, well, let's get into today and see where we're going to. Let's start off with a gorgeous big googly eye. And we have been drawing in a brush pen just to kind of get some variation, get some differences going. And it is quite pleasurable, really, just to kind of come up with something in a similar style, but trying to just to vary stuff, just to kind of shake up the brain a little bit. And sometimes it needs something active. Right, I seem to be drawing some kind of horse or something, which might be fun. Let's give him a big crazy mouth. Just the thing I do kind of see is that I almost kind of feel like with some of the kind of shading parts, I almost kind of feel like it should be even lighter, it's like there should be some kind of, but with the, I keep dipping it. I don't know why I keep dipping it. Habit, I would assume, dear sir. Habit. I'm just adding ink to it for some unknown reason, and it's not really needed, but I guess it's just habit from dipping a pen for so long. And that is part of the habits you get. But sometimes those habits cross over and they do give you some different angles. For example, with the brush, I'm still very much into my brush, and I'm like with I mean, this ink is actually quite a dry feeling to it. And I'm kind of feeling like it adds just an extra kind of special kind of twist to it, And it can kind of, again, by switching up your tools, as in your brushes or your pens or whatever, can sometimes be the answer that some people have been looking for that new style. I know that a lot of people ask me about finding their style, and a lot of occasions it's kind of like when you're looking at your table and you're going, oh, I need a little bit of texture, and you'll go charcoal, or that big fat ugly brush that I use, or whatever. And that sometimes when you look back at that piece you'll go, oh, I love that, I do like that, I love the way that looks, And in a strange way, it's kind of how I got into the dip pen. The dip pen was something that I kind of really liked, the way that it kind of was difficult to control, and by it being difficult to control, gave me lines and textures and things like that that really made the drawing look special. And that's something that's really stuck with me, and I'm really quite happy that I've stuck with it, because it really has kind of given a lot of the drawings this kind of looseness that I really do love. Now it seems to be a very large head, so I'm going to have to kind of swirl the body around somehow. If I can get the whole body in, will be delightful. If I can't, we'll see. I kind of like the idea of having a really thin kind of neck to him. Oh my god, what are you doing here, man? Some kind of screaming horse. And again, really, I do kind of promote the feeling of as much variation in your drawings as you can. Don't worry so much about, like, this is not really my style, but it is a real pleasure to kind of get in there and just to play around, have some fun sometimes. You know, it's like I do feel sometimes I can kind of get a little bit too kind of wrapped up in taking my style further and further, and sometimes it just can't, you know. And it has been bugging me quite a lot recently, that I really want to kind of get into more of the color, but in the same vein, the color adds a lot to it, but it also takes a lot away from the passion of the drawing. If that makes any sense to anybody at all, please let me know. I do feel like sometimes the color is kind of like a selling point, you know, whereas sometimes I feel like my drawings really are nicer just the fact that they are in ink. I feel it captures a lot of the vibrancy of it, like a lot of the life of it, you know. Sometimes the ink just kind of captures the whole excitement when I'm drawing, and that has been something that I've tried to maintain. I've also tried to maintain it in the fact that I'm drawing in this type of video sketch form in a very kind of loose, unprepared way, because again it gives you that kind of looseness to the drawing. Like the structure of the head here is kind of a little bit twisted, and again, if I had constructed it and done all my planned out drawing, it probably wouldn't have gone that far. It probably wouldn't have been so extreme. Let's go really round like that. And it sometimes, like when you're looking at some of the sketchbooks of people, I do find that sometimes they're kind of exploring is sometimes better than what their actual final stuff is. Though the final stuff is something that they can sell, and that really has become. I'm not going to say it's a problem, but You know, I do a drawing and then I need to think about, okay, put on my business head, how do I sell it? You know, how do I make some money in this damn game? You know? And art has become that way. It's become, how the hell do you make money in it? Whereas I do feel like years ago people would be kind of very excited by loose, wild drawings. I feel kind of like now it's kind of like they're wanting something very finished and very kind of clean, you know? Something very perfect. And again, it's not in the real life. It's not like that. It's kind of, you know, trying to capture an artist in his motion, if you want, you know, in his prime of expressing himself. And if you go back to some of the Picasso stuff where he's actually there when he's drawing on glass and he's drawing a chicken that changes into a fish, and I love that. I love the way that you can kind of see his brain is very active, very excited. I've got the idea just to have quite a big chunky horse, really. I'll get some kind of, well, I'll think about that after I think about what kind of texture onto the body. But got a message from my daughter today, who is in South Korea. She is over there studying. It's amazing actually to see kids these days. It was my daughter just kind of, I'm going to learn Korean, and she just does it. It's like, you know, the intelligence of some of the young people these days is really quite incredible. So she just learned Korean, just, you know. Remarkable. So she's going to spend a year there in South Korea. I can actually hear, I don't know if you can hear, if you really listen very carefully, you might hear Mr. Miro snoring under my table. Oh, he's such a little angel. Alright, well, let's try something here. Let's try and add some inky spots to it. Let's kind of give him a spotty horse type of approach. Just to get back into a little bit of my old inky ways, my messy ways. Put in a couple of bigger spots just to make it look a little bit more designed. Lovely. Kind of gives me a spotty horse type of approach. In fact, maybe even the brush might have been better for that. But I will be back to drawing in the brush, the dip pen style very soon. Don't know why my ink hasn't turned up yet. It's one of those. It's kind of like Christmas when a big big 2-liter packet of ink comes. It's just like the greatest feeling. It's like being Christmas all over again. It really is. I know it's very childish in a way, but I love it. It's like when the guy knocks on the door and he's got a big heavy package. It's like, oh, can't wait, can't wait, can't wait. And almost on every time that I get ink delivered, which is extremely common at the moment, I almost have to open every packet of ink just to test that it. I don't know, test what? I don't know. It's like, oh, I'm gonna test how black that black is. You know, like ridiculous, really, but and rather childish. I know, I can hear you saying, but I get far too excited by it, and I just have to open each package and give it a little test. There we are. We're having a rather kind of wild horse. Quite lovely, actually. And it's quite a nice, crazy. I won't have enough space there to put what he's actually reacting to, but you can tell me what you think. What is he reacting to? What has he seen? I would love to hear from you on that. What has he seen? What is it? What is in front of him? What is scaring him? Send me in the comments and tell me what he has seen. What is scaring him? Right, legs. I'm going to try and squeeze in 2 legs there. Alright, let's get a nice. The lovely thing about horses is their front legs and their back legs are very, very different. So it's really quite gorgeous to be able to play with that very thick and that very thin, the very thick thigh of them, coming down to a very kind of thin and delicate, and then onto that hoof that's usually quite large. Adding a little bit of a shine to the hoof. almost looks like he's been blasted backwards, you know. That's it, kind of just roughly filling in there. And it's quite a nice to be playing around with the brush pen. Mine are a little bit too old probably, so that I feel like they're drying out quite quickly. But I'm sure if you had bought a newer one, you might find it much more flexible. Get his tail going in there. But if you are exploring with different things, I would love to know what you are exploring with. What mediums are you mixing up? What, you know, it's always very interesting to see what you guys are doing. You know, very interesting to see where the whole kind of video is helping you in any way, or even giving you ideas as much as that. It's quite nice. I'm still quite... I do quite like the idea of him having this spotty horse, this spotty texture to his body. Is really quite lovely. Almost kind of gives him a kind of giraffe type of a feeling, you know, with that long kind of neck as well. Lovely. There we go. And that is today's drawing, the screaming horse. I would love to know what you think of the screaming horse. And I'm hoping to get back to some bigger drawings and some more textured dip pen. I do feel like my line work is a little bit more attractive. Well, for me, you know, I do find that the kind of the line on a dip pen has much more kind of much more variance to it. Not only a thick and thin, but you know, it is very, very clear to see how different the line works are. It does really kind of give me a lovely excitement when I look at some of the ink drawings, and they're extremely varied. A little bit of pen just to shade it up a little bit. So there we are. The wild and funky screaming horse is today's drawing. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for sharing your time with me. And of course, thank you for all the subscriptions, and the donations are all very, very, very much supported. Thank you very, very, very much. And that is today's drawing. I hope you liked it. Do let me know what you think he's screaming at. What has he seen? Send me a comment. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.